back on the channel to discuss where it went wrong, what is going wrong, what's the solution, what's the problem. Is it Daniel Levy? Is it the recruitment? Is it Ange? Is it the tactics? Is it the players not wanting enough? Are the players not good enough? How do we solve for this? Will Ange be here in a year's time? Does Henry need to change his merch? Because if you cannot see what Big Ange is doing, then you're blind. He is walking us down ridiculous alleyways where we're getting turned over all too much. It's not impressive. It's a really poor way to end the season, and we're going to discuss it all right now. Henry, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. Outside of the football world, I'm really good. Friday's here, long weekend, but just this fan base. I honestly think the Tottenham fan base is the most cutthroat fan base out there. Yeah, like it's absolutely insane. I put a tweet out earlier saying I'm not Ange out. I said this to you last night. I'm not Ange out, but I'm struggling to argue the side of Ange in at the moment. The amount of comments on it, get rid, get Ange out. On my live stream last night, obviously you were in the chat. So many people now are leaning towards Ange out. And obviously that goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with the Levy outers. But, mate.
Is it reactionary or is it justified?
When you look at the numbers, you can justify it to a degree. Like, you just said to me a second ago off stream, Burnley have got more points in the last 5 games than us. Since game week 10, I'll read you this, just in case anyone hasn't seen it. Since game week 10, Tottenham have played 24 games. Yeah?
Yeah.
We've won 10, drawn 4, lost 10, scored 45, conceded 45, and collected 34 points. In that time frame, West Ham, Newcastle, Chelsea, Man United, and Bournemouth have all accumulated more points than us. Bournemouth, in that time frame, have got 8 more points than Tottenham. My major concern is we're doing this in a season without European football. Next year, the likelihood is we're going to be in the Europa League unless we have a complete capitulation and lose the remainder of our games, which could happen. I don't see how we're going to rotate players. I'm struggling to see light at the tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel at the moment, because there's just so many things for me that's just not going right at the moment. Ange completely lost his head yesterday. I don't know if you've seen the clip on the 34th minute. He's screaming, "Don't pass it backwards!" Like you can actually hear him over the crowd on Sky. That's how loud he's shouting. "Don't pass it backwards!"
And then the first sign of emotion from because that's the first time I've seen him do that since a preseason friendly. There was a clip going around of him saying, like, stop
losing his cool.
Pass it forwards. That happened in preseason against Shakhtar Donetsk.
And then a game that we won 4-0 or whatever it was, or 5-0.
And then in the season, he's just stood like this for 34 games. And he's been criticised by Tottenham fans for not having any kind of, not going down the Arteta route of like doing a team huddle every 5 minutes on a water break, but at least giving some instruction, some direction, because we're not seeing too much of it either from the coaching staff. But is it going from pillar to post where you see him doing absolutely nothing for 34 games, and then all of a sudden he unleashes like fire and fury in a 30-second blast that was... Do you think the pressure's getting to him a little bit? He feels like... It goes to me like he's a little bit under stressful experience right now.
It goes from a paper boy, right, to a broker on a trading floor when there's a drop-off. There's an outbreak, and everyone's lost Wi-Fi signal trying to place trades, and he's running around. Yeah. For me, like, there's no emotion on the touchline other than the Chelsea game. Like, when things are going well, when we score... Like, he's not like, see managers like do the fist or like they clap. Ange just stands there with his hands on his hips. Like, we are so tactically naive the way we approach games. Like, it's madness. We're now on a record. We're about to break a record for the most set pieces we've ever conceded in the Premier League season. We're going to break our own record.
Yeah, it's poor.
And that was with a team that was battling relegation. That was back in the 90s. We're now
97 season.
Yeah,
When we had
we're now a
Justin
team.
Edinburgh and Stuart Nethercott.
Yeah, absolute horrendous players. Now we've got our most settled back four we've probably had since the Pochettino days. We've got a semi-balanced midfield, but up front, mate. I mean,
I think our midfield is trash. I think our forward line is worse than trash.
Let me ask you something before we like actually get into the game. How many of our midfielders would you keep next season? Like, if you could sell them for exactly what they're worth, no like cut deals. If you could sell all of our midfielders, how many would you keep going into next season?
I'd keep Maddison. I'd keep Bentancur. I'd keep Sarr.
That's it for me.
Yeah, Hojbjerg can go. Bissouma can absolutely go. That guy doesn't care, let alone is he not good enough for this system?
Giovanni Lo Celso, I mean, we're bringing him on with 5 minutes to go.
And he created more chances in the 5 minutes than the entire rest of the team did in the open play.
Now, Maddison, I'll be honest, mate. Maddison doesn't give two cacks.
I think that Maddison is something's happened to Maddison, and I can't figure it out. People are putting it down to his like struggling to return from injury, and that's probably a big part of it. But I also think that the tactics don't help him. I think that when we do this 70% possession in first half football, and every team just sets up in a certain way now, the template's been created. There's so many players that do not fit that system, or that are not going to be able to benefit. Sonny's one of them. We're going to talk about him. Maddison's another. Even though he's got the quickest feet in our team, he needs outlets, and there's just no outlets to go when he's working in that sort of midfield or final third 15 square yard box. And that's why he's coming deep. But then he doesn't have that long range. He's never been a long range passer because he's always worked in the final third for a team that has space to operate in. At Leicester, he has always been in a team, even in the season when they won the league, teams weren't low blocking against Leicester. So he's never played in a system that requires him to break through tiny walls or tiny paths. And so I don't know if he's the right guy. But
that Leicester team had the perfect balance because they had Ndidi in the 6, Tielemans in the 8, and Maddison in the 10. You got three players that know their roles. We've got too many players that are very, very, very similar. And what as I said to you last night, what's not helping us is we're changing our midfield setup every single game. 1 minute is Bissouma and Sarr. The next minute is Hojbjerg and Bentancur. I don't think the only three players in our 1 to 11 that excel in Ange ball, right, are Pedro Porro and Udogie, because they're good in the final third and they've got the engines to get up and down, and Micky Van De Ven. Christian Romero could quite happily play in a DM role. He played number 9 the other day for 30 minutes. He's like, these players, in my opinion, are not buying into it. Like, there's no way that Ange tells Romero to go up front for the last 30 minutes. He's done that off his own back. You saw him yesterday.
Well, yes, but that's part of the creative freedom that he offers them. This rigid fluidity thing. The only thing that's rigid about it. No, I think Ange has made it clear. He's like, I want the players to be able to do what they feel necessary. Essentially, right? I'm handing over responsibility, and like I said before, right? I've had managers that are empowerment managements before, when they just say, "I'll listen. I appreciate you bringing this to me, but I think it'll be good for you to figure out how to solve it." And you're like, "Well, that just means you're not doing anything. What are you doing?" And again, I'm not saying that's Ange. I'm not saying that's Ange. I'm just using my experience in corporate world. Like managers that say, "I'm handing over all responsibility for you," then you're not necessary. You're just a bottleneck. You're getting in my way. Step aside. But as a player, I think if you're asked to kind of take the lead, like Romero did, take the lead, move into places that draw players out of position, you have this wiggle room and freedom, then that also requires everyone else on your team to know what you're going to do, to read your mind, to be on that wavelength, that cadence, that frequency, and then adjust and adapt to whatever they're doing. Plus, you've got to be figuring out whether it's you that should be the genesis of that movement. And then if you are, then everyone else has got to think on your wavelength. And so you're asking shitloads from people who don't have that much experience playing together, and also a young team. Like, to be honest, if you're asked what you need in that environment is leaders in every position, big personalities who are smart. Footballing IQ has to be at the very top. And when you look at players like Bissouma, do you think that guy's got footballing IQ?
Do you know what I'd do? Do you know what I'd do? I'd make Romero captain.
Like, yeah, he seems to. He's smart. He seems to know. He's brave. He's certainly brave and courageous. And
he's just got that.
Happy to take things on.
He's got that. Like I mean, the guy's played in World Cup finals. Like he knows what it takes to get over the line. He's got that experience. You know, he's played in multiple leagues. He's played in big international tournaments. I look at our players, and if you look across the board, we don't have any leaders. Like James Maddison's our vice captain on his first Premier League season at the football club. I mean, is that just PR? Should we have made Maddison? Has Maddison got any vice captain qualities about him? No. Has Son really got any captain ability about him? When you look at Romero,
well, I mean, he's captain of career, but they haven't won anything. Have they?
Romero's screaming at players, stay in your yesterday. He's saying pass the ball out wide, pass to Vicario. Like my fear is,
Vicario looks rattled. By the way, even in the first 10 games when we were top of the league, there was so many variables. Like obviously the other teams hadn't figured out how to play us, so we caught them a little bit off guard. But like in all the games that we won, Vicario still put in a worldie occasionally, and so did Van De Ven, you know. But last night in the first 10 minutes, Vicario gave the ball away 4 times. Do you remember Hugo Lloris when he would make a mistake? He had that kind of way that he'd screw his face up where he looked really stressed all the time. You kind of see that same thing with Vicario. Like when he knows the camera's on him after he's just miskicked the ball or put it out to touch or given the ball away, and he looks like he's struggling with the heat of
the pressure.
The pressure, yeah. But he's
it doesn't help him though.
Great goalkeeper. So
it doesn't help him when every time someone attacks us, we've only got 2 defenders back. So he's constantly like our defense is constantly exposed. Even last night, a Chelsea team with 14 injuries and 9 first-team players had the better chances again. And we might have had 19 shots or whatever, but how many of those shots were panic shots when we were 2-0 down? And we got Liverpool next, and that's another cursed ground for us.
Oh yeah, we're losing that one. Even though I said we weren't, we are going to lose that one. Just our form is terrible. I think the players are like shell shocked by the results recently. Look, we're going to carry on talking about it. Before we do, guys, I'm sorry I didn't even say welcome to the chat. I do apologise. Everyone that's in, love to see you. Appreciate the your throwing of your attention this way for this morning or wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is. Super chat from Martin Knightsbridge saying Ange has been spursed and it's got to him. Look, we're going to talk about this because I think that there's this growing narrative again that wasn't there when we were top of the table, but as soon as things go peak, suddenly it's the saber rattling for Daniel Levy's head comes out, and it's rinse and repeat with the fan base. But maybe Daniel Levy has with this summer to kind of show something. But guys, hit the like button for me on the video if you don't mind. There's 350 people here. Really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't got to Henry's channel, it's in the title. Smash click on that. It will just open up another tab, and then hit the subscribe. Get over to him, and his problems with the unsubscribing issue seems like he hopes it's done. So if you've been
looks like it's getting fixed.
Double check you're still subscribed because shenanigans are at foot, not just with my channel but with Henry's too. Look, keep the comments coming. I want you guys, let me just quickly put a little request in there. 1-word answer. What's the problem at Tottenham right now? And the options are Levy, players, Ange, tactics, or something else. But 1-word answers. What do you think the problem with Tottenham as we finish this season is? And then after that, we're going to do a second poll, which is what's the solution? But what's the problem?
Do you think pound for pound, Aston Villa's squad is better than ours?
It's close. It's a close call.
It is close, yeah. But you probably...
I don't know. Like it's negligible. I feel like they've got some players in better positions. I think they've got a much better forward line. Watkins for me is better than anything we've got in the 9. I like Bailey and Diaby better than I like Kulusevski or Johnson.
Saying that Villa got stuffed last night, 4-2 at home by Olympiacos.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Their number 9 got a hat trick. I can't remember his name is. The Turkish guy. And Villa have done that. They're so above us by playing in Europe. Like for me, I don't want to upset a lot of people, but it's tactics. That is the reason why we are getting stuffed. Have you seen our record in London derbies? By the way,
well, but you know what? They cherry picking it, right? So they go, "Oh, it's only the big London derbies. Let's only look at the ones where we struggled: West Ham, Arsenal, and Chelsea." And we'll just go, "We played 6, 1-0, drawn 2,
we
lost
got
4,
stuffed
or
by
whatever."
Fulham as well.
In one game, we won the other. We beat Crystal Palace both home and away, didn't we? Or did we draw Palace away? I can't remember. I think we beat Palace home and away.
Yeah, we beat Palace 2-1 away.
Yeah, 2-1 away and 3-1 at home, right? So,
Yeah, we
or
stuffed
2-1 at home,
Palace.
wherever it was. So,
I
like,
wouldn't want to play Palace
London
right
derbies
now,
haven't
though,
been
would it?
entirely poor. They haven't been as bad, but people cherry pick the data set to suit the
Yeah, of
narrative.
course. Their new manager, though, Glasnow's got them playing. I wouldn't want to play Crystal Palace on Sunday, I tell you that.
No, I wouldn't want to play Palace right now. I'm glad we got. Well, I think we did play him under. We played them when he first joined. Yeah, but he's Stella Sean.
I think we were his first game.
What's that? Yeah, I think we were his first game. Yeah, or second game or something. Yeah. So what's the solution then, mates? I mean, for me personally, I think it's a combination. Every time something goes tits up at Tottenham, the knives come out for yours truly by the Levy out brigade on Twitter. People going, why do you support Daniel Levy? Why, you just call it as it is, call the real problem the real problem. I think Daniel Levy is part of the issue. I don't think he's a bad chairman. I don't think he's a good chairman. I think he's good in some aspects. He's bad in others. I think he's made a load of mistakes, but I think he's kept us relatively competitive in a world where the bigger issue in football, the underlying common denominator, you have to take your hat off of Tottenham and get away from the microscope of looking just at Tottenham and look at the bigger picture and think, well, if the reason why you're angry is because we haven't won enough trophies, well, let's look at the teams that have won the trophies and see if there's any kind of common denominators there. And in Daniel Levy's reign, 92% of all trophies that have been won by the same 5 teams. Only 12 teams have won trophies in that reign. Of the other 7, 1 team has won twice, which is Leicester. And there's 6 others that have won once, Tottenham being one of them. But the 5 teams that have won everything, they've either always been better, always been more, have a higher draw for higher caliber players, always had more money, or they've come in and been a beneficiary of sugar daddy ownership before the rules came in to prevent that being a thing anymore. So, like, if you want to really analyze whether Daniel Levy's been a good or bad manager, you can't just look at Tottenham. You have to zoom out. But people don't want to do that because it dilutes the narrative. But for me, is he a part of the blame pie, Henry? Yeah, but everyone gets a slice. And should get a slice of the blame pie. The players, the tactics, the fans, the club, the owner, the board, the scouts. Everyone is responsible for what's gone wrong this season, right?
You can put a percentage of blame on Levy, but most of this for me is on Ange. Tactically, we are, of course, Daniel Levy's going to get some of the blame. He's the chairman of the football club. Someone's got to take accountability, but you've also got to praise Levy for what we've done right in terms of some of the recruitment, in terms of bringing Van De Ven through the door, James Maddison, Vicario, Udogie, Porro. They're all good things, but they all get overruled by anything that goes wrong against his football club. I think tactically, we are so naive, and for me, there is zero plan B, and he is so stubborn. As I said to you with Judges and Dan yesterday, if you look at the best managers in the world, right, everyone's got a plan B. Aston Villa don't play the same Luton at home against Man City away, do they? We play the same. It doesn't matter who we're playing against. We love this rock and roll 65, 67, 70% possession, but all a team has to do, the blueprint to beat Spurs is to sit back, put your defensive line on your penalty area and counter us. And then have an aerially dominant centre-back or an aerially dominant forward. Trevor Chalobah's first game in a Chelsea shirt in 16 games, right, that he started. Gets a free header, get a free header at the back post and scores an absolute worldie of a header, right? The next goal comes from a set piece. Cole Palmer nearly scores an unbelievable free kick, who I thought was quiet the whole game, by the way. But then Jackson, he's got a free header, and Son and Hojbjerg are basically hugging each other. Like, Ange has to take some blame for that. He's the one who's running through coaching drills with Jedinak. He wanted Jedinak because they worked together.
But something had changed, mate. This is what's annoying, right? So, like, can you take Ange on his word a little bit when he says it's not a problem, mate? It's not a problem. We're not focusing on that. We're focusing on the bigger picture, which annoys me a little bit because there's no specifics. It's all about 10,000 foot stuff. I'd like to know exactly what he. Sorry, what's
not
that?
be a problem? How can 16 set piece goals not be a problem? We've conceded
But it was
more
clear that
set
last night
pieces.
we had addressed it. Corners, at least, we had addressed. We weren't doing the zonal marking. We had put 2 men on the man marking situation. There was some addressing from corners, and we looked far better from corners. I don't remember Chelsea having many chances from corners last night, but set pieces don't start and finish with corners. You know, like the free kick, exactly the same template.
Both goals and free kicks.
Both goals from free kicks. And against Arsenal, when it was 3-0 at half time and it was the start of the second half, Declan Rice gets a free kick 28, 30 yards out on the right-hand side, whips it in, and the guy at the back post, there's 3 Arsenal players in the back post. One of them takes Sarr out, and then Tomiyasu gets a free header, just goes over the bar. But if he misses it or it's overhit, there's the left back for Chelsea, whoever it was, or the left midfield, I'm not sure who it was, who also is there. Last night, exactly the same thing happened. Exactly the same thing happened for the first goal, when it should have Sarr gets taken out. Should have been a free kick according to Ange. Maybe not. He was blocked, but free header at the back post. Like, it's one thing to address corners, but set pieces are set pieces. It's like, it's so obvious when you're looking at your line and you're going, there's three opposition players at the back post unmarked. Where's this one going? It's obviously going to go to the back post.
Do you know what it is? The only way I can describe it is if you know something's going to happen, yet you tell yourself it's not, and then when it happens, you're equally as annoyed. Like, you look at Liverpool. Charlie Eccleshare has come out and said that Virgil van Dijk is not available this weekend. Right? Immediately, as a Spurs fan, we should be happy about that. Quanta's coming in. Who's their young? Watch him have the game of his life against us. I don't know what it is.
I don't think you have to have the game of your life at the moment, mate. Our forward line is absolutely atrocious. Like,
how many of our forwards would you sell in the summer? Because I'll be honest, the only one I actually want to keep, and this is going to upset a lot of people, is Brennan Johnson. And I was the one that was going for him. I look at Son right now. If a 50, 60 million bid come in from Saudi Arabia, I'm taking it. 1 year left in his contract.
The system, mate, and he will increasingly dwindle. He's 31. He's only got a year left on his contract. Well, we're going to offer him another 2-year deal to keep until he's 34. Like, he's only going to get his pace is not going to get better. He's not going to improve. And if we stick with Ange and other teams play a low block, then Sonny is irrelevant. The best thing about Sonny is when a system allows him to get put through over the top. When Harry Kane can figure that ball out, come deep, whip, and put the ball over in the back. But when is the last time that you saw a defensive line play like towards the halfway line against us? It just doesn't happen anymore. And so, if the best thing about that player is going to be offered up as an opportunity fewer and fewer times, and his ability on the wing is going to dwindle because his pace isn't going to be as good, and he doesn't take players on to the same degree, I don't see the point. I think, like, if you can get 60 million quid for him, I 100% agree with you, mate. And look, with Saudi Arabia not being able to get Mo Salah, they're going to turn their attention to another superstar, and maybe they'll come knocking on Sonny's door, offer him £1 million a week or whatever it will be.
It will bring hundreds of thousands of new fans into the Saudi Arabian league.
Yeah, fill their stadiums. It will fill their stadiums because their stadiums are empty most of the time.
He's an icon. Outside of Europe, he is an icon. He's the most popular Asian sports star on the planet. He sells thousands of shirts on his own. I look at it logically right now. None of our forwards, Timo Werner, I'd cancel his loan. I don't see the point in keeping him. Right,
yeah,
Richalison. We paid 60 million.
Sell them all. Brennan Johnson's probably. I like Brennan Johnson more than most of them. Kulusevski, I think, offers. I like Kulusevski because I think he offers something different. He's got a physical side to his game that most forwards don't have, but he frustrates the life out of me. But yeah, him and no.
Yes, so we got Brian Hill.
When we brought him on last night, I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Brian Hill, he's the savior, is he? He's Jesus Christ going to save us from our sins.
And he brings him on with 5 minutes to go. Like, what is he going to do in 5 minutes? Like, at least bring him on when they scored the second goal with 20 minutes to go. Why bring him on with 5? Like, Brian flipping Hill, Howard, whatever his name is, Wallowitz, or just get rid.
Howard Wallowitz, yeah. Guys, there's nearly 600 people here. Smash the like for me. Really appreciate you spending some of your Monday or your Friday. It's Friday, isn't it? It's not Monday. Friday with us. Blaine, Nate, massive super chat. Really appreciate you, mate. Really appreciate it. Really helps the channel out. Our fan base needs to be realistic. After Kane left on the eve of the new season, you'd have bitten the hand off to be 5th. Yes, there's problems, but calling for Ange to go, why? You really want a 17th manager in 25 years? This 17th manager thing, doesn't that include like all of the stopgap managers like David Pleat and
yeah, I think
Ryan
it's
Mason
like
×3 and stuff like that? And
Stellini. I think it's like 14 or 13. Actually,
and then
legit.
David Pleat, Ryan Mason, Stellini, etc. Yeah. Look, I mean, I don't want Ange to go, but I take your point, Henry. Like, I think that I want to see it play out. Like, I want to see the jelly set. I want to see him get what he needs, and I think he needs a lot of work done in the summer. I don't think any of the midfielders fit the model because none of them are specific in their roles. I think you're right about the balance to the Leicester team when they had Ndidi,
Tielemans and
Maddison and Tielemans. I don't think we've got a lot of jack of all trades and a master of nothing, and none of them really fit the model. You haven't got any tenacity, any aggression in there, and a lot of players that sort of lose concentration, and you can't do that in this situation. So I want to give him what he needs and let it play out. But for those people that are, as I always say on my walks, like I understand why people feel the way they do, however they feel. If you're Levy out, I get it. If you're Ange out, I get it. If you're Levy, if you like Levy, if you like Ange, if you like the players, I get it. Like I think that Tottenham fans are entitled to their opinion given how crazy a club we are at times. Are you still backing Ange? Like, do you want us to spend 150 million, 200 million on him this summer?
The problem I've got is I do believe Ange will be successful at his football club, but it's going to take a lot more than 200 million quid. You need an entire new forward line, right? That's probably 6 forwards, 40 million a pop. That's 240 million. You probably need 3 new midfielders. We're not going to do that. We're not going to go in 3 summer windows. There's 500 million quid because the results aren't matching the spending. Like if we finish, I don't know if you can bring up the Premier League table, but Man United are 6 points behind us, right? Yeah. Man United are 6 points behind us and Newcastle are 7 points behind us. At this moment in time, I'm going to say, with my hand on heart, Tottenham will lose to Manchester City and Liverpool. Right? I don't know if you just zoom in a tad on that.
Yeah, let me just thank you very much for the super chat, Blaine. Really appreciate it, mate. And I agree with you, buddy. Losing Harry Kane was people are forgetting that. We're going to continue to talk about it. Let me just get rid of it for a second so I can see the thing. Hang on. Here we go. Oh,
yeah, that'll do. Right, Man United are 6 points behind us, and Newcastle are 7. So let's say, I think we can all agree, Tottenham are going to lose to Liverpool and Manchester City, right?
Yeah.
That could quite easily be a 6-point swing for Man United and Newcastle.
Yep. Who have Man United got left to play?
Man United, the only tough game they've got is Arsenal.
Really? Okay. But every game is tough for them because they're shit as well.
Yeah, but this is the worst Man United. I mean, they drew to Burnley. They've got Crystal Palace Monday night, which they could quite easily lose, but it's something like Man United to turn up, right? They've got Newcastle, which is a 6-point up, Brighton away, who are not great, and Arsenal. So the likelihood is they will not finish above us, right?
Yeah.
Newcastle have got Burnley tomorrow, Brighton, Brentford, and Man United. I think Newcastle win 3 of the next 4 games.
Yeah.
If Newcastle finish above Tottenham, there's going to be uproar.
They've only got so Tottenham need to win 1 game. Oh no, but they've got the goal difference as well.
Burnley.
They got the goal difference, yeah. So okay. Well, Newcastle need to win every game, and then Tottenham need to. If Newcastle win every game, then Tottenham need a win and a draw to overdo them, to outdo them.
West Ham are in the last 5 games have accumulated more points than we have, and they are screaming for their
Burnley.
manager.
Look at this. Look, Burnley have got 6 points in the last 5 games.
Look at Everton's form.
Yeah,
Everton have won
unbelievable.
4 of the last 5 games.
Unbelievable team. They always find a way, Everton. Like they're like a wounded animal all the time.
So let
Fighting
me
in the
let me
corner.
ask you something. If Tottenham, let's say the worst was to come, and we was to finish 7th, right?
Yeah.
Would you be calling for his head?
No. Listen, I want the season to be over. I don't really care. I think obviously Champions League's done. I'm happy with the Europa League. I did want Champions League football, and I said, as I said yesterday on Lee Judge's TV, I said that if it comes down to if Tottenham did beat Chelsea, if Tottenham did beat Liverpool, if Aston Villa dropped points or whatever, and it got to the point where penultimate game of the season, if Tottenham beat City, then we would finish 4th. I would want us to finish 4th, even if it meant Arsenal getting the title, because I don't care about other teams. I want what's best for Tottenham, and I think that the extra budget would help us in the summer. But now that that's not going to happen, then Europa League will be fine for me. But if we finish 6th, I mean, even if you finish 6th, you're going to get Europa League because United are in the final of the FA Cup with City. City are already guaranteed Champions League, so United are already guaranteed Europa League. So it's only if we finish 7th that we don't get that we'll get Conference League. And I can't see Newcastle and or Chelsea winning all their games and Tottenham losing all theirs. I just don't think that's going to happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. But if it does, then it's going to be an absolutely atrocious end to the season, Henry. But I still think you've got to like stick with it. You've got to let this guy have the time. All he talks about is how it takes time with his system. And so to cut it at the first sign of problems, to me, is it's foolish. It's like judging, I don't know, putting a steak on. You want your steak medium or well done, and you only give it 2 minutes on the grill, and then you criticize the chef. Like you have to let it cook. For me,
last season we've got to concede. Everyone's saying about our defensive record and all that. We've got to concede 16 more goals in the remainder of our games to have conceded more goals than last season. So on the defensive, we have definitely improved, right? But the volume of goals we've leaked in our last 3 games for me is we've conceded 9 goals in our last 3 games.
Say that again. How many goals did we concede last season?
Last season we conceded 63,
and this season we're on
54. Sorry, 9 more goals in our last 4 games, which at the way we're playing, like with Man City,
crazy. What sort of tale does that tell? If we were playing Conte ball last season, which was
and we had 3 different managers,
yeah, and of course the quality wasn't there. But look, for me, it's easy, mate. In order to close the gap, we need to figure out a way to concede 20 goals fewer, and we need to score 20 goals more. And that, for me, requires mainly the forward line. Because a lot of the goals that we concede from open play are because of mistakes of giving the ball away at the top end of the pitch. 3 of the Newcastle goals were conceded because Sonny gave the ball away, or Brennan Johnson gave the ball away, and Timo Werner gave the ball away. So you get players at the top end of the pitch that are less wasteful and also less clumsy, and you solve for both. You score 10 more then, and you concede a few more. And obviously, if you fix set pieces, you're probably going to concede 15 more goals. When I said that we're not that far away, I really do believe we're not that far away. But it's going to require time, patience, and a better, some better players in there. Drew Zilla's saying, "Big up, Drew. Appreciate you, mate. Very nice of you. Mate, it must be bloody early over there for you. Was it 6 o'clock in the morning? With your coffee and cornflakes and a super chat." SAF, Sir Alex Ferguson took 4 years to win the FA Cup with United. Klopp's first trophy with Liverpool was Champions League against us. Wenger had 3 years between trophies. What are we doing? We're doing it again, mate. We were taking top 6 in June. We were taking the top 6 in June, 100%. I think everybody was. That's the thing. Tottenham fan base are reactionary. If we hadn't started as well as we did, I think people would be okay with where we are. It's because we were first and now we're 5th.
I think your objectives change. Like after halfway through the season, when it was just us and Villa for top 4, losing out on that is disappointing. Knowing that we've only had to play 1 game a week and that they've got all the way to a European semi-final. Your objectives change. Yeah, any Tottenham fan would take top 6 at the beginning of the season. Losing Harry Kane, with an up and down season, injuries galore. anyone would take that. But at the same time, it is disappointing the fact that Villa are now 7 points above us. Playing. I don't think their team is that much better than us. I just think the difference between it is Unai Emery changes that you set up every now and then. Like, look at the way they played against Arsenal at the Emirates. They got the offside trap down to a T, and they sat back and countered them. They weren't the better team on the day in terms of possession, in terms of shots on target. We played them. We could have been 5-0 down in the first half. Like, there's got to be a plan B. As much as Ange, when it works, it's brilliant. When it doesn't work, we've been on the end of some fun pins.
I want to ask you, Henry, right? If Ange doesn't take too much time on the training ground to worry about the opposition, if it's just rinse and repeat the same thing all day long to try and nail our version of ourselves, and it's all about plan A, then why is it taking so long? Right? Because if I'd understand it if you were doing that and also taking some time to be a bit reactive to the team you've got, if you were playing twice a week and there were days where you had to travel to Europe, recuperate from games, if you didn't have that much time on the training ground. But the fact that you have more time on the training ground this season than any other season in the last 20 years for Tottenham because of it's the fewest games we played, and the fact that we're not even doing training ground routines to protect us from the strengths of the opposition, like, shouldn't those realities mean that the time that it takes Ange's system to be embedded should be shorter at Tottenham than it was at Celtic, than it was, maybe at Brisbane, I don't know, and the Mariners in Tokyo? Like, shouldn't we be further along the process than we are because of the fact that we've had so much time on the training ground and it's all dedicated to one system?
Yeah, absolutely. But Ange, if you look at the way Celtic played in the first year when he didn't get it, when things didn't go to plan, if you look at the way Australia played in the World Cups and the tournaments he's in, has never had a plan B throughout his entire management career. He solely believes his system works once everyone believes and buys into it and everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. The problem we've got is our fans aren't patient. And when the fans kick off in the stadium, it breeds onto the pitch. Look at that lot down the road. As much as everyone took the piss out of Arteta and everything, as much as everyone was watching Tottenham on a Tuesday night, you play whatever, yeah, they've stuck to it, spent nearly £700 million, given Arteta the players he needs to get the most out of his system, and now in 2 of the 4 years he's been there, they've been in title races. I don't think our fans are prepared to sit there and go through a lot of pain to see light at the end of the tunnel. We could.
Do you think it's the fans that ultimately get the players sacked or get the managers sacked?
Look at Lucas Moura's substitution when Nuno was there. Listen to the crowd reaction. We went absolutely berserk at why Lucas Moura was subbed off for Steven Bergwijn. Levy and the board. Listen to the crowd. We're all sitting there singing "I'm loving Big Ange" instead. After we've just got a 98th minute winner, the emotion breeds in. You can just see it when we're all cursing, and Chelsea have just got the most worst Chelsea team we've probably seen in 15 years. Have beaten us home and away. That's not like and a Chelsea. If you took 14 injuries out of our first team squad. Like the drop off's insane, but it's not only that.
I think we played better. I think when we had our worst injury crisis at the start after the Chelsea game, when we played teams like Man City, I think we played with a belief and a resilience. Whereas that to me is the concern. Is why, since we've got most of our first team players back, it's arguably was our first team last night without Udogie, right?
They're not buying into it. See it straight away. My opinion is Maddison's probably had a bust up with Ange. Look at his body language when he's coming on yesterday.
Then why didn't Lo Celso get any minutes? That's the weirdest thing for me.
Why is Brian Hill coming on with 5 minutes to go? Our substitutions throughout most of the games we've lost this season have been diabolical, mate.
Yeah. I agree.
Giovanni Lo Celso, who creates more goal scoring opportunities in the 8 minutes he's on this pitch than any other player in our front line does for nearly 90 minutes. He's got to start the Liverpool game. Giovanni Lo Celso As much as we all think he's
if he
this or that,
doesn't,
Maddison's going to start.
Maddison was awful when he came on. I thought people were saying he was good when he came on. I thought he was terrible.
He's been awful since the Aston Villa game, and that was in March. We're now in May.
Got a couple of super chats, mate. Let me just get a couple of super chats, and we'll continue the conversation. Drew's come back with another one saying, out of curiosity, who are we getting to restart the project again? Who is actually there? Who actually is there? Even if we did get a new manager, fan base is only giving them 2/3 of a season to make anything work. 100%, Drew. I know you like the fact that you like that Thiago Motta guy from, is it Bologna?
Yeah, first year in management, and he's looking at getting Bologna into the Champions League for their first year in their history.
Yeah, but can you give a guy, would you like...
Well, look at Man City did it with Arteta. He never managed anyone in his career. Yes, he sat under Pep. Daniele De Rossi has turned Roma around. I'm not saying that I want these guys over Ange, but this narrative that there's no managers out there, I don't buy into it.
I think Ruben Amorim is going to cost you 50 million quid.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay 25, 28 million euros to get him out, right?
And then a lot of money as well to get him in.
It is, but if we go and spend 28 million euros or 25 million euros to get a manager out, it doesn't just start there. We need a new forward line. We need a number 8 who can actually contribute in the final third, right? And we need an out-and-out number 6. That is going to be 250, 300 million pound. You know, you look at a player that sits on Villa's bench week in, week out for the last 10 games, Moussa Diaby, that's a 50 million pound player.
Right, which is why selling someone like Sonny at not peak value, but at top value, when you know that he's going to dwindle. Like everyone that's attached to him, and I get the financial side, I absolutely get it from Daniel Levy's perspective as well. But you know what? Like, I still believe that Tottenham fans will struggle to get a ticket to games, it's not like Tottenham are suddenly going to not sell out, right? There's a 85,000 seater wait list for games for the memberships. Members were moaning that they couldn't get tickets to the North London derby. If Sonny does go, yes, we're going to lose the shirt sales to career. Yes, obviously the corporate stuff might not be quite as filled up so quickly, but I still believe that Tottenham's global brand will be fine. We'll sell out every game anyway. And so I don't think the numbers are going to be that like that. Yeah, there'll be a dent, but I think that you have to, like, what are you going to do otherwise? Just run down the 60 million pound valuation to zero when his contract finishes at 34 and the guy can't barely move. He's not running. I think that you could sell him for 60. If you could get Richalison. Is Richalison really the guy? Everyone was calling for him to come in. Everyone thought he did brilliantly against Arsenal. Did he really do that brilliantly against Arsenal? He headbutted or shouldered someone in the face. Could have got himself sent off. And what did he do last night? Absolute the sweet FA. Like, I don't think he's the guy either. I really don't think he's the guy either. So you sell both. If you could sell both of them, double swoop to Saudi Arabia, you've got 110 million quid plus whatever's in the kitty. Plus, if you can sell Hojbjerg for decent money, you know, and a few other players that are surplus to requirements. Brian Hill, Lo Celso, you might be able to get 20 million quid for. Lo Celso's or 15 million quid. Whoever buys Lo Celso is going to get a really good player. Some Spanish team is going to absolutely get a brilliant
someone
player.
like flipping Sevilla or Valencia or maybe Girona. A Spanish club will go in for him, but like players like Bissouma as well. Like he's a fantastic player. He's not buying into this It's the Ange ball. You can see it. There's 3 positions on that pitch that we play, the 3 players that really buy into it, which is Van De Ven, Udogie, and Porro. The forward line, the forward line. If you look from game week 10, we've Bournemouth have scored more goals since game week 10 than we have. And that's a Bournemouth side that have got Clivert, that most of our fans turned their nose up when he was at Roma, right? A Dominic I don't know why it's frozen. A Dominic Calvert-Lewin, not Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a Dominic Solanke. Like we need big recruitment, and whether that's going to be Ange or whether that's going to be, you know, Almerim or Motta, whoever it's going to be, needs more than this forward line. Like we haven't got anyone.
Forward line's a big problem for me.
We haven't got anyone who likes running at the fullback. Right. Like that's
and the players that do, like Brennan Johnson, he's getting used to taking players on, and I think he's getting better at it. I genuinely do see an improvement in Brennan Johnson, and he's good at whipping low balls in, but he's no good at cross. He puts these floaty nonsense balls up in the air and he needs to work on whipping at an
Just
angle.
quick, 24Z. I said Romero earlier should be captain. I said he should be the captain in his team because he's the one who like is giving the instructions and shouting at players. Like I don't know why Madison.
I think you said Romero, Van De Ven, Udogie, and Porro, right?
Yeah, those positions.
Yeah.
But for me,
yeah, exactly.
How James Madison's the vice captain of this football club on his first season is bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. Like Arsenal have got Declan Rice, who was West Ham's captain for 2 years, who lifted them their first trophy in 40 years, doesn't walk into the Arsenal dressing room and become captain. If you've got respect at another football club, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it at your new football club. Like it's madness. Like Romero, by the way, he's passing a bit. Like, as much as I've cussed him and I've been very harsh on him, his passing ability for a centre back is out of this world. I would go as far to say right now he's top 2, or if not the best passing centre back in the league. It's absolutely ridiculous. But when you're constantly exposed because your midfield is in the final third with your fullbacks, the narrative's going to be, oh, but Tottenham's defence have conceded nearly 60 goals. It's because our tactics are madness, mate. It's absolute madness, our tactics.
I agree, mate.
And I
agree.
I'll tell you now, we're going to concede 3 goals to Liverpool. And Liverpool that have got nothing to play for, that we're tactically outclassed by Crystal Palace. We're going to concede 3 to them.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like it's going to happen, a fait accompli. I just want to get through some of these super chats because for some reason they're not saving. If I don't bring them up, I lose them. I don't know what's going on. But Martin Knightsbridge, thank you very much for the guys that have sent them in already. Martin, if you're building a house, you want bricklayers laying bricks, plasterers plastering. You don't want electricians fitting your bathroom. We need specifics in their roles. A 6 in a 6, left back playing left back. Not a 10. 100%, mate. I understand why he wants versatility because he likes players to be able to move and drift into positions that are unorthodox. Totally get that. But in certain roles, certain things, you need an electrician doing the lights, and you can't have a labourer doing everything. And that's kind of why I feel like the midfield is also a bit of an issue. There is no specificities, is what I've always said. The specificities of a monster 6 are very, very crucial. And until we get that, I feel like it's the key cornerstone it's the foundation of his entire team at Celtic. Callum McGregor could do exactly what was necessary at his level, in that level. He wouldn't do it at Tottenham in the Premier League, but you need to find someone that can replicate that skill set of a higher level, and we haven't got it in our current midst. And then when you get the ball forward, you need players that are capable of doing that as well. Appreciate the super chat, mate. Let me get the next one. Patrick Davis. Ange is not the problem. We keep blaming the system when for the most part we dominate play. The problem is the lack of quality in the squad and the lack of players fitting Ange's mold. Back him. Yeah, no, I agree. Henry, what do you reckon about that?
Yeah. Look, I'm as I said to you earlier, I'm not Ange Postecoglou out, but we need to just give him the players he wants, but also we've like the set piece situation. I don't know what Jedinak's actual job is at the moment because it's clearly not to sort out set pieces. So it's not just bringing in the right players. Like we need more than that. We need a new set piece coach. We need a new captain. In my opinion, I don't think like Son was like Harry Kane. You lead by example, but you don't lead on a football pitch. You look at the captains of the Premier League, like John Terry, Steven Gerrard, Roy Keane, Vieira. That's a proper captain, but they're very. I mean, where are we going to find a proper captain from? Do we? I just give it to Romero.
The other thing, mate, is that I feel like we've got such a young squad. There are consequences to having a young squad. The ramifications are that you have inexperience and you don't necessarily know if these guys are going to be leadership material. Or like you take that risk because you don't know if that Bergvall guy is going to become the next whoever or become an also-ran. You just don't know when you're buying these youngsters. And Tottenham obviously are trying to blend and buying some experience with some youth and hopefully catching some superstars before they grow their brand to that level. But I do think that if Ange is going to hand over so much responsibility to these players on the pitch, and that requires courage of their convictions, intelligence, footballing IQ, all that stuff, how do you know if you have that when you're buying 18, 19 and 20-year-olds? I think occasionally you need to go out and go, this team needs if this team needs more Romeros, if this team needs more winners, winning mentality players, World Cup winner type players, I don't know. Would it be absolutely beyond crazy to go and see if you could go and get a Luka Modric, let him finish his career at Tottenham, where his career was essentially created? Whereas, get him in for a year, go and get a Tony Cruz from Real Madrid, go and get someone that
Problem is they're not going to. They're not, as much as it's a great idea, and I do agree with you. They're not going to take a wage cut. They're on 250, 300 grand a week. They're going to come in and be our highest paid player at 38. I want to add something to your point as well. When we first got Ange Postecoglou, everyone was like, there's going to be a pathway from the academy to the first team of players. How Jamie Donnelly has not started a Premier League game yet, looking at our number 10 situation, is bonkers. It's absolute bonkers. He is not going to do worse than what we've had from James Maddison for the last 4 weeks. As much as we love Maddison and he's a fantastic player, Lo Celso's getting 5 minutes here or there. Jamie Donnelly actually gets this football club because he's in the academy. Like players like Santiago.
Has he done anything though when he's come on the pitch? Has he done anything to give you?
Yeah,
he's coming on for
he's coming on for like 5 minutes here or there. Like, look at Santiago.
I'm just not sure that they're ready though, mate. Like, I feel like the under 21 level is so bad.
Well,
I know we're the best at it.
They lose Trent. They bring in Connor Bradley. They bring in Quansah. They bring on. They won the cup final with a bunch of kids against Chelsea. Chelsea played an 18-year-old Gilchrist against us last night who pocketed Sonny. Everyone seems to be giving kids a game here or there, but when we try and do it, like I don't see how Jamie Donnelly is going to be worse than Maddison. Like when the guy is absolutely lost it. Like,
would you like to have seen Mikey Moore get his debut last night?
Is he going to do worse than Richalison? Is he going to do worse than Timo Werner in this team? Is he going to do worse than Brian Hill? If Mikey Moore was to come on yesterday and score a goal, that his confidence would go through the roof. Yeah, but no, he's get like as fantastic it is for him to sit on the bench. We're literally like we're playing the worst football we have all season in terms of attacking threat. Yet we've got kids that are performing at their level. How we're never going to know if they're at the level or not because we're not going to give them a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me it's insanity.
A user says a lot of the players left their passion at Villa Park. I mean, that was the last time that we turned up, wasn't it? Really? I mean, and that was only the second half. Was it 0-0 at half time? I forget.
0-0 at half time, and then we were 2-0 up by the 55th minute. I think Maddison and Son scored, or Maddison and Johnson.
Gilchrist
is 20, whatever. He's still a kid.
Yeah. I mean, listen, first of all, the super chat's been amazing. Thank you very much. I've struggled to get, because I've been having them up a lot. I haven't seen too many of the chats. So I'm going to invoke that a bit more now, but really appreciate it. Let me ask you this, mate. What do you do about players? Can we have conversations about popular players that, like, it's easy to say, get rid of Sessegnon at the end of the season. His contract's up anyway. Let him go. Don't renew. Ben Davies, maybe Hojbjerg, players like that. It's easy to have consensus, and it's not a risky opinion to say, they're not the right players for this system anymore. Is there any concern around players like Pedro Porro, just out of curiosity?
In terms of his performances, or in terms of him going into next season?
Well, in terms of if he's a good fit for the system.
No, I think Pedro Porro is a little bit like Frimpong from Leverkusen. He would be fantastic in a win-back system. The same as Grimaldo and the same as Udogie. Because
isn't it ironic, mate, that the squad that we have now would probably fit a Conte system more than...
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You could play a back three of Dragusin, Romero, and Van De Ven. Romero in the middle, and the two either side. You could play a two-man midfield of Bissouma and Sarr. Right, Maddison in the 10, and you could play Henry talks to himself in a cupboard. Big up to Always Jacking, 2 clickbait merchants only interested in dollars. Well, make sure you smash like Always Jacking. Make sure you smash like as well. And subscribe to all 4 channels. But mate, honestly, like Pedro Porro is a fantastic player, but we all know he's best at going forward. But because of how attacking our system is, we get caught out. Like to put it into perspective, we are in terms of our system. It's like the game plan is to be like a Ferrari going forward, and then to be like a Land Rover at the back.
Yeah.
Our attack is like a Fiesta going forward, and a Mitsubishi at the back. Because there is the midfield is up and down constantly. We have zero shape in the midfield. I looked at the heat map last night. Right, Hojbjerg was our deepest midfielder when he come on. Do you know where Maddison's average position was? On the halfway line.
Halfway line, yeah. That's the thing. I think he's struggling to know what to do. I just think he's like, well, if I wait up the top end of the pitch, when I get the ball, I've got no space to do anything with it. So I'll come, as I said earlier, he comes deep to get the ball, and then either just passes it back to whoever's in the six anyway, or doesn't do it because he's not used to progressing the ball at that. He's not used to a lot like a 35-yard passer. That's not the sort of player he's been at Leicester. He's always had more space. But this is, again, like people that are blaming Daniel Levy because it's manager 17 or 16 or whatever it is. Like everyone was on board with this when we were 10 games in and first in the table. Everyone was on board when we signed James Maddison. Everyone was on board when we signed Bissouma. Everyone was on board when Micky Van De Ven showed how his brilliance. Everyone wasn't on board with Vicario, and then all of a sudden was like, yeah, I was wrong about Vicario because he's absolutely fantastic. There's only a couple of players where there's been like a consistent doubting of the quality, and that's Brennan Johnson and maybe Timo Werner and Kulusevski. I feel like those things have had a consistent narrative to it, but there's been a load of flip-flop in most of the other players. When things were good, everyone's happy. The second that things are bad, these players are not good enough. We need Daniel Levy needs to go because it's ultimately the buck stops at the top. And I just feel
I just don't buy into that. Like I don't, as much as I don't want. I'm not a Levy fan. I don't buy into the fact that Levy is picking this team. Levy's setting the tactics. Levy's just automatically found that we're bad from set pieces. As much as you can critique Levy, you've always got to give the praise in terms of the personnel we've brought in. But Levy's not picking a team. Levy doesn't leave Kulusevski and Harry Kane on the bench at Sheffield United away. Levy doesn't pick Eric Dyer in a League Cup game against Fulham.
Right.
Like, who's now potentially could be in the Champions League final, by the way, if they beat Madrid next week. Like, how Spurs is that? Spursy is that? That Eric Dyer could not buy a game at Spurs. If they beat Madrid next week, he's playing in his second Champions League final. Eric Dyer has played more Champions League semi-finals than Arsenal have. Do you know how insane that is? They've played one semi-final.
Do you know what, though? He is a perfect example of horses for courses, or square pegs or whatever, because it's not just that he's playing there and everyone's like, what? He's actually playing really well for Bayern Munich. Like, yeah. He's rediscovered a version of himself that we haven't seen at Tottenham for a long time. So there was always a player there. It's just whether or not, he was feeling the pressure of the fans that hated on him. His confidence was shot. He needed a break, needed to get out of the kind of fishbowl that is the Premier League. He's deserving his spot. He's keeping Kim Min-jae out of the Bayern Munich team. And when you saw Kim Min-jae in the semi-final against Real Madrid, he looked absolutely terrible. Whereas Eric Dyer looked
terrible all season.
Pretty comfortable.
He's been terrible. See, he doesn't suit the Tuchel system. Kim Min-jae would work well in Ange ball. He'd work because he's probably going to be a 50-60 million pound centre back. Probably not.
Would you push Romero? Would you do the Romero thing? Would you ask him to play in the six and then go and get another 50 million pound centre back rather than trying to get a six?
Well, in terms of his on ball ability, you're going to struggle to find a number 6 who can play the anchor role, who's as good on the ball as he is. You're going to have a really, really good scouting network. I don't understand why we can't play Dragusin and Van De Ven against Liverpool, right? And try Romero in the 6. Because in possession, we basically go to a back 3 anyway. Because the number 6 is deep with the 2 centre backs.
Well, he should be. He should be. That's what he should be, right? And just drift up to the halfway line, drift a little bit further forward, just sit in the pocket into it. Just like it would be so much easier to have him sit there and do that, and then drop it back into a back 3 when we don't have the ball.
Yeah,
and then that allows Micky Van De Ven and that allows Micky Van De Ven and creating fireworks. Micky Van De Ven then can cover the left back role a little bit easier, give some protection for when Udogie gets caught up in transition, and the same with Dragusin to help out Pedro Porro. Dragusin's more of a right-sided almost a right back anyway. So having that hybrid role of a back three would really suit his game. And Romero just sitting in the middle, but having the liberty to come to break forward. I think that I genuinely am curious to see how it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to work, but I'm curious about the situation enough to say when you've got 4 games left and very little to play for, you might
Why
as
not?
well. Why
Yeah,
not?
why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not use competitive football? You
I'd like
can't
to
gauge it
see.
in preseason friendlies. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, the level's just not there, is it? You're playing like flipping someone from Uzbekistan. I would
Yeah.
rather Tottenham go Romero in the 6, Dragusin and Van De Ven at centre backs, and let's be honest, I would rather try something and get thumped than get thumped anyway. You probably going to disagree with this. I'd throw one of the kids in the team, or start Lo Celso in the 10 and leave Donnelly and Moore on the bench. Put Santiago on the bench. Our forward line, like he's probably going to go Johnson, Richalison, Son. But for me, I would go Lo Celso in the 10. In the 8, I'd probably go Benson Court, and I'd go Romero in the 6.
Okay.
And then
And
the
who would
centre
you
back,
have on the wings?
Son and Johnson.
And then the
That's not,
9 was Richie.
you can't really play Timo Werner because he's injured. Brian Hill is there's no point in the defense. I'd
He was
go
so bad, Brian Hill. Like, what are
yeah
we doing?
in
What are
in
we
the
doing
defense.
here?
In the defense, I'd probably bring on. I'd probably put Porro right back, and I can't even play Davis. He's injured. I'd probably go. It's probably has to be Royal, isn't it? But like, it's not going to be any worse than what
Like, mate,
we
you know what? At half time, I was like, I obviously I hadn't really been paying too much attention to Emerson Royal. I thought that he'd done a good job against Cole Palmer. I thought, Cole Palmer hasn't really done too much in the first half, so therefore Emerson Royal's done a good job. I go to SofaScore to look at their ratings, and he had like a 6.0, and there were players on the team that were far worse, in my opinion, that were getting 6.4s, and I was like, what's that based on? I clicked on it, and it was 0 tackles, 0 interceptions, 0 clearances, 0 from 6 ground duels won. And he'd given the ball away 16 times in 45 minutes of football. I was like, oh no, Emerson Royal is not the guy to play left back. But we haven't got another option over there. We started the season with five left backs: Sessegnon, Udogie, Perisic, Reguilon, and Ben
I'm going to
Davies.
say that now as well.
None of them are injured. None of them are fit.
A lot of people are going to disagree with this, and I think you might as well. I would actually keep Reguilon next season. I've looked at the way he played in the Brentford system, right? And
I've always liked Reguilon. I don't get why.
For this scenario, when
Ange,
your doggy's out, who would you rather, Davis, Royal, or Reguilon? You're taking Reguilon, aren't you?
Mate, I've always rated Reguilon. I think he always plays with his heart. He loves celebrating other players' goals. Like he's a likable guy from an outsider's point of view. But like apparently, I don't know. Ange just doesn't rate him, and Ange didn't give him a chance. And then Reguilon speaks out about Ange. Once you do that, you're probably kind of biting the hand that feeds you. So you're not going to get much of an opportunity. And Ange doesn't seem like he's probably the sort of guy that appreciates players talking out about him. But yeah, I think the Reguilon, and it's a solution, isn't it? Because we're not going to get money for him or very much money for him, and we do need a left back to come in a cover for Udogie.
Anyone but Sessegnon. If he stays another year, I mean, I've never hated
his contract's up though, isn't it? His contract's expired. I think we're just not going to renew it and let him go. I'd hope. If we give him an extension, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, look,
again.
Dave's absolutely bang on. Blood some under 21s between now and the end of the season. Give Donnelly a game. Give a Santiago. Give a Mikey Moore. Just give anyone a game in that forward line. Because right now, Sadio Mane's hairline, as expressions would say, we've got a good back, but nothing up top. It's absolutely just get rid. Just get rid of someone like Timo Werner. I mean, would you sign him? Would you extend it? Would you make him a permanent deal?
No.
So let's actually go through the forward line. Brian Hill.
Sell.
Richalison.
Sell.
Son.
Sell.
All right, so who have we got left? Kulu and Johnson.
Keep.
And Richard. Did I say Richarlison?
Yeah. And Timo Werner sending back.
So out of our
I don't expect that to happen. I don't expect that to happen. But I'm just saying, hypothetically, if you could get 110 million quid for Richarlison and Sonny from Al Ittihad or whatever, Al Jazeera, then like you put that 110 million and you go and get, you know, a lot of plus whatever. Plus, you're going to have some budget available for it as well. So if you can get a budget of like 160 million, 170 million together, then with that, if you go and get a Santiago Jimenez, you could go and get that Serhu Guirassy if you wanted to as like a kind of backup number 9. Or I don't know if Veliz is going to be the guy or not. I've got no idea what he's like, what his quality is like. But a Nico Williams, an Antonio Nusa, an Elise, an Eze. There's loads and loads of players out there that immediately elevate us that are better fits for the system. That's if you're going to stick with Ange. But the worst thing you would want to do is sell someone like Son, and then you pivot to, and then you end up sacking Ange by October because he started next year as terribly as he's finished this season. And then you go and bring in someone, whoever, like an Amorim, and he wants to play a different style of football with a back three that draws the opposition out onto you. And then all of a sudden you've got the space in behind again. And then Sonny's like, that's where Sonny's at his world-class level. And then you've sold him for 60 million quid when you shouldn't have done. So it all depends on how much faith we have in Ange. If the owners are going to back him and give him what he wants, I think there is a legitimate reason, a legitimate justification to rebuild that whole forward line, because I don't think any of them are very good. Really don't.
What front line would you play against Liverpool?
Johnson against Robertson for me is more interesting as a matchup than... Is Robertson back now? He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or is it still Gomez that's playing out there?
Their back four is probably going to be Trent, Quansah, Konate, Robertson.
Or maybe you play Johnson out on the left.
You got an aerially dominant centre back there in Konate, so that's going to be like this. This is the problem we've got. You've got to give Dragoos in a game and just say, look, you mark him every single corner. You'd save us 2 goals.
Well, where does Dragosin come in? Who do you drop for Dragosin?
You put Romero in the 6.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't see the harm in trying it for this game. Both teams have got nothing to play for, right? We're at the top 4 race. Liverpool are at the title race. Liverpool aren't going to finish out the top 4 because they've already guaranteed it. And the likelihood is Man United are not going to win all 4 of their games. So as long as we beat Sheffield United and Burnley, we've guaranteed ourselves 5th. Just try something.
But 6th is also good enough for Europa League for us.
Yeah, so. just try something. Rather than playing Newcastle in Australia, trialing something else 2 weeks before Euros.
Yeah. That's another.
I mean, why are we doing that as well? Why are we playing Bayern Munich at our home ground so we can all clap Harry Kane? Like, what are we actually...
I don't get that. I'm on board with the Australia thing for what it's worth.
It's not 3 days after the season, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to Japan for a preseason friendly. We might as well just like stop off in Australia. I'm sure it's all kind of geographically fairly... Well, I've got no idea.
Actually. And then we're going to watch Harry Kane bang a hat-trick with a dire assist in our own backyard.
Yeah. Oh, God, can you imagine?
You know our fans will clap it as well.
That terrible celebration that he does in front of the South Stand. Anyway, no, I feel like I'm on board with the Australian trip. I do think it's important. I think that Australian fans, I mean, there's loads of them in the that sort of join my comment section all the time, and I think that they're really super passionate about Tottenham. So to see him in the MCG in front of 100,000, or if 100,000 will go, I don't know. But even though it's an exhibition, it's not just from a money-making perspective. I think it's important for Tottenham to respect the audience of the fan base. It's such a long distance. You can't expect too many Australians to fly over. They haven't got the money necessarily as an individual to come over to just watch a Tottenham game. Like a lot of Americans can fly over from New York or whatever. It's a 6-hour flight. But from Australia, it's 24. It's a day on a plane just to go and watch Tottenham get 3-0 down against Arsenal. Is unlikely. So sometimes you have to bring the party to the people rather than the people to the party. And I think that it's important, but 3 days at the end of the season, it seems weird. Like I think you should just.
And no one's really going to want to play a proper intense game, knowing the fact that you've got an international tournament for 2.5 weeks afterwards.
Yeah, it'll be a kickabout. Well, there'll be no fizzle or spice in that one. But
there'll be no tackle, and the only person to make a tackle is probably Romero.
Yeah, he'll break someone. He'll break Isaac's legs.
Not only that, you got the Copa America 2.5 weeks after the Euro start. So, and then the Olympics.
Yeah, apparently Romero's not going to be selected, even though he wanted to be.
Like, there's something not right. Why would you want to play in the Olympics after a Copa America? Then start a Premier League season? Like, where's your rest?
3 weeks late. He would literally miss the entire preseason and the first 3 weeks of the Premier League.
Madness.
But he's fully coys. He is fully coys. You can tell he's fully coys. Also, Van De Ven's fully coys as well. When he scored that goal and he was tapping his badge, it gives you the feeling in the sillies, you know. But listen, mate, we're not going to solve it today for sure. But for me, I'll give you like 60 seconds to kind of round off where you're at. And obviously, these opinions are all in flux. But for me, I'm still Ange in. I want him to be backed. I need the players to man up, step up, appreciate and respect the manager's requests and requirements. And if they're not up to the scratch, and I think a lot of them aren't, then we have to be willing to do a lot of interesting business in the summer. And I think Daniel Levy needs to take that kind of hat that he wears, where he thinks that every negotiation is a zero-sum game where someone has to win and lose. Doesn't have to be that way. You can find value in compromise, and I don't think that he's very good at it. But I genuinely think that this time around, not that I expect him to change, because a leopard doesn't change its spots, but I do think there's going to be a lot of transition, a lot of turnover, a lot of players leaving, and hopefully a lot of players coming in. And I just hope that when Paratici and Langer turn around and say, all right, for the number 9, these are the 5 players that we've identified, and prioritize in order. I really hope that we are offering him a list of players that are capable and that have got that kind of, not just the numbers to suggest confidence in the transaction, but a personality that's going to just be a winning, a monster mentality. Because I don't think we have enough of them at Tottenham.
Do you think
so a lot of responsibility on Daniel Levy this summer? Sorry, mate. Go on.
I was going to say, do you think Bergvall will get kind of integrated into the squad? Like next year, we're going to be in 4 competitions, right? But if Bergvall, I mean, what's he going to be? 18, 19? Do you think he'll get game time, or do you think he'll get a loan spell?
Do you know what, mate? Look, if I was Dragusin, I'd be really annoyed that I showed my loyalty to Tottenham. I agreed. I shook hands on that deal. And then Bayern Munich came in. I said, sorry, I'm turning down Bayern Munich because I've already agreed to come to Tottenham. And Tottenham have not repaid that loyalty, that kind of gentleman's agreement in any way, shape, or form. And that's not on Levy, that's on Ange, but he hasn't been repaid. If Tottenham also promised Bergvall minutes in order to keep the deal alive, to stop him going to Barcelona, then if he comes in and Tottenham don't give him what we promised him, it's really like scummy behavior. If you say something like be a man, honor your word. If that's what it's taken to get the guy to sign, then you don't. It's just broken promises. I'm not a fan of people that break promises.
It doesn't look good, does it? Like it doesn't look good at all. Doesn't look good. And you got like Vizokovic as well, who's going to be next January. Is it he can play?
Yeah, it comes in next January. Yeah.
So next season, like it's about understanding Ange Ball more, building relationships better, fixing set pieces, and getting a new forward. Our priority should be bringing in 2 forwards and a number 6 this summer window. If Gordon's available from Newcastle for FFP regions or whatever, or you can get a Morgan Gibbs White on a cut price.
Would you take Gordon? Would you?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
I said when he was at Everton, even when Everton came to Tottenham, I went to the game. It was a couple of seasons ago, and we beat them 5-0. He was still charging around the pitch at 5-0 down, and then 88
4 up at half time or something, weren't we?
Yeah, the game was like just dead, but he was fighting for everything all the way. And I was like, this guy's a player. He not just a player, but like he's got a warrior kind of mindset. He wants to be. He wants to win. He's a fighter. He's a fighter, and I think you need that kind of thing. I don't think we have enough of it. I do think Pedro Porro has that stuff. I think he's a fighter, but I don't think we have enough of it in our midfield and in our forward line. Too many kind of pussycats, not enough tigers. And I think that someone like Anthony Gordon would have been a good fit. But you know what? The fan base went into meltdown when those links emerged. I remember on WhatsApp groups, everyone going, Anthony Gordon, Levy out. If we sign him, I'm 100% Levy out. and he's become the player that obviously a lot of people in the world of football knew he was going to be. He's doing really good things at Newcastle. You know,
Not
I
only
wouldn't
that,
hate. I wouldn't hate him at all.
if you could bring in Gordon, I don't see why we don't go all out for Ivan Toney. I don't buy this narrative that there's a poor attitude there. If he's available for what Sky Sports are saying at 45 million quid, that's 18 Premier League goals. In the system,
He's been terrible. He's been terrible since he's come back, though, hasn't he?
Doesn't want to be at Brentford, though, does he? Maddison's been terrible since his injury, but we know deep down he's a good player. Like, if you could get a number 9 of Ivan Toney's standard quality, or a Santiago Jimenez, and Richarlison were to leave, and you got Gibbs White, you know, he creates more chances, I think, than anyone in that Forest side, or an Eze. Like, it's not hard to fix. You just need better quality. There's lots of talented wingers and forwards out. Peter Simmons, Isak's the man. Isak's joining Arsenal. I can tell you that for free right now. They are going to go. All the reports, Romano, Ornstein, Arsenal are prepared to break the bank for Isak. We're not going to go and do £100 million on Isak. No chance.
But I think that, like, I saw this thing last night. Like, Arsenal, Arsenal went and spent £100 million on Declan Rice. When will Tottenham ever do that? I feel like.
Yeah, but you don't need
how many other players did Arsenal buy last summer?
They bought Timber for 45 million. 45 million on Timber, 65 million on Havertz, and 105 million on Rice. They did 210 million quid.
And Trossard as well?
And he was in the January.
Was in the January, was he?
19 million. Arsenal's first 11, they've spent 640 million pound on it. But everyone goes, oh, but Arteta spent 640 million pound. There isn't a bad player in that first 11, is there? The only thing they need to sort is the left back.
Well, you know what's interesting though is that everybody was mad at Kai Havertz. All the Arsenal fans were like, Kai Havertz, he's absolutely terrible.
Passing him, he's going to be the first Arsenal player to get 007, not have a goal contribution in 7 games. And now they're like on their knees. I'm not going to say that, but yeah, they are performing serious acts. But right now,
I see even your mate, Lee Gunner, wasn't he doing? Was it this? What's the celebration? Is it this one or whatever it is? He was doing it, right? And he said he wasn't going to celebrate.
In order for Tottenham to be where Arsenal are, the one word we need to get is quality.
Yeah.
And like you said yesterday, I think it was you that said Arsenal had to get rid of Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Ozil. Like, there's life at Tottenham after Heung Min Son. As much as he's been a fantastic player, the club will always live on. Son won't be a professional footballer in 7 or 8 years. Like, we need quality, mate.
Yeah.
If we don't get quality,
and we definitely need to, to find it's more than just technical players though. You need players that have a certain mindset. And I don't know how you identify that if you're buying 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I don't think that they could possibly have demonstrated that side of their game by that age. I think Tottenham need at some point this summer to go to a player that has, World Cup winning or Champions League winning experience, and someone who stepped up in the big moments in those games. Even Harry Kane, bless him, as much as I think he's one of the world's best, his big game performances have not been spectacular. Well, I think that Tottenham need a midfielder who is, just a warrior in everything, like a warrior of a human as well, and
do you know who I'd look at?
Not sure we're going to find them.
If Serge Gnabry wants to leave Bayern Munich, I'd go straight in and do everything I can to get him.
Yeah.
Which apparently he wants to leave Bayern Munich. You got a big game player there. There's won a Champions League, won countless league titles, winning World Cup squads. Get him. Or if Leroy Sané is available, I know the likelihood is
he's Josh Kimmich. Josh Kimmich would be a sensational 6. Just put him in front. He can play. He can step back into the centre backs. He can play right back if necessary. But I know he's a bit of a difficult guy to get on with, apparently. But that's just because he's a winner and doesn't accept mediocrity.
He doesn't. Yeah, his mindset.
The 6, he'd be brilliant.
You can't walk into a Bayern Munich dressing room as a manager unless you have got the CV of a Guardiola, a Jurgen Klopp, an Angelotti. You're walking into a mentality of a winning dressing room. Like Ange Postecoglou, as much as he is fantastic, he's not going to manage a club like Bayern Munich. Because on your CV, you haven't won a top 5 league, you haven't won a European trophy, like genuine, like that sort of football club, the Bayern Munichs, the Juventuses, the Madrids, the Barças, the Man Cities of the world, You're walking into winning dressing rooms. You need winning managers. Like, look at Miss Bunny. Sane in this team has got real pace. He can take.
Yeah, Sane's amazing. And Gnabry. Both of those players would be sensational. Both of them would absolutely.
I'd say all of Bayern wingers.
Who's the other one you said? Koeman.
Yeah, I'll take him as well.
Yeah.
Do you know, in his entire footballing career, this is the first season he hasn't won a league title.
Wow.
He's won league titles at PSG, Juventus, and Bayern Munich. He's won 11 league titles. 11.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's a player that's played his career at the very best clubs in leagues without too much competition.
Yeah, you know? He's been won World Cups. He's scored in Champions League finals. He's delivered.
This is interesting from International Observer. I actually think it's a good point. Spurs targets always seem to be decided on which club is in FFP problems. The top players are expensive, and the club always comes up with the financial. I think,
but you can still get quality from players that have got FFP problems, like Newcastle.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be the genesis of why you're. Because it screams out that that's Daniel Levy thinking, oh, this is a place where I have leverage because I'm the rich guy, and I'm taking the meat off the bones from the person who's poor. You know, it comes across a little bit. I don't know. That doesn't necessarily. It screams like you're only confident in negotiations where you think you can take advantage of people. I'm not sure that's the best way.
Could you not say though, like when Levy signed Ndombele, you're signing a player that delivered in the Champions League that year. They finished in the Champions League semi-finals that year. Like we have done it in the past. We've gone and spent £60 million on big players. But as I've said to you, and I'll say it again, eventually Tottenham have got to bring in a marquee signing. Like a 60.
Here's one for you. Miss Bunny, shout out to you. Haven't seen you before. Welcome in. Sniffer's a Newcastle United fan. He's just joined the Spurs Talk Show recently. Shout out to you, Sniffer. Bruno's got a release clause. I think it's 45 million quid, is it? Or 48 million quid, and it expires on June the 30th. So, and after that, it goes away, and then
You're about Bruno Guimaraes.
Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes. Yeah,
it's higher than 45.
Is it?
He's got a release clause for 30 days.
But it finishes on June the 30th, I think. And I thought it was 45 million quid release clause. And let me know, so someone in the chat can figure out what it is. But if it's 45, 50, 55 million, would you take Bruno? Because a lot of Newcastle fans are also screaming out for a 6. And I would argue that Bruno is a perfect 6. But apparently Newcastle certainly
not in the way they play. In the way we play, he'd be perfect. But not in the way Newcastle play. They're a lot more physical side. We're a lot bit more control.
It's 100 million, is it? Oh,
yeah, okay. 100 million release clause.
That's not going to happen then.
Yeah, Eddie Howe has revealed that he's got $123 million, £100 million release clause from Bruno Guimaraes, which is only active until June 30th. Arsenal and Manchester City are favourites.
Wow.
If Arsenal do 100 million on Guimaraes and 100 million on Isak, then because they've already been told, the Cronkies have already come out and said they've got a £240 million budget. I don't know how they're getting this money. Like this year,
well, they put debt on the. So they obviously paid off most of their stadium debt because the stadium was built in 2006. Was it 2006? And they paid off most of the stadium debt, and then they've added more debt now back on. So they got the stadium debt down to like 0, and then they added about 80 million quid's worth of debt. But so that could we not do that? Quid was used as transfer budget.
Could we not do transfer debt and put 150 million quid alongside the budget we've already got, and go out and get a whole new forward line? Like this narrative, you can't get a whole forward line or midfield line. Liverpool have just done it. Liverpool got Gravenberch, Endo, McAllister, and Szoboszlai in one window. That's an entire new midfield. And no one, let's be honest, no one at the beginning of the season thought they'd be in a title race. Everyone thought they'd be in and around top 4. They've gone for a title race for 33 games.
Yeah.
Like if we was to get 200 million out, I don't know how, like loans or selling shares or whatever in the football club, and get £200 million, hypothetically, you could sell Richarlison and Son, and let's say for argument's sake, you got 100 million for the two of them. With 300 million quid or 200 million quid, whatever it is, you could buy a new forward line. You could buy a Leroy Sané. You could get Leroy Sané and Gnabry for about 130 million. You got a winger on each side then you just need to sort the number 9 and get better depth. Like the narrative that, it can't be done. Newcastle did it. They brought in Gordon and Isak. And Barnes. In 2 windows. Yeah. So It seems to be like whenever we want to do
Do you
something.
think Newcastle will be a top 3 threat next year, or are they still at the same level as Tottenham?
No, yeah, they won't be. The one I'm worried about is Aston Villa because they're
They're
going to go
going
out
to kick on again. Do you?
I think they're going to. Well, they've already said that what's the American? His name is.
I forget his name.
The American owners already said that they're going to do 170 million this summer. They've got the Champions League money, and Unai Emery, like, he's got this way of. He's either going to get sacked next season or win a major competition. That's how he rolls. He's either going to fly off the rail.
I can't believe they might be kicked out by Olympiacos at the semi-final stage. It's the biggest shock. How many people would have lost money last night on betting on that game?
The geezer scored a hat-trick in 60 minutes against them.
Who is he? Is he a young? Should we be looking at him? Is he a top player?
I don't know.
Olympiacos striker.
His name is Ayoub El Habi. He scored a 56-minute hat-trick. He's 30 years of age.
Oh, okay. No point then.
And he's got 18 goals in 28 games in Olympiacos. And in the Conference League, he's got 10 goals.
Wow.
But if Villa do 150 million, 170 million pounds, they'll probably go above Liverpool.
Well, I think Liverpool will struggle next year. Even though I think that the guy, the final guy, is going to be Arne Slot's going to be he'll figure it out eventually, probably. But it's a massive responsibility to hand over to a guy. Like, it's not just players that struggle with the transition from the Dutch league to the Premier League. Look at Erik ten Hag. Everybody thought Erik ten Hag was going to be the next whoever when he came out of Ajax, came to United, and has he really impressed or improved them? I don't think so. Most United fans hate the guy, right?
I think Arne Slot's approach is a lot more tactically free at the back, domination. Erik ten Hag was never the right man for Man United. That as soon as you manage that football club, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
The same with Liverpool, though. Liverpool's only a slight notch down from Manchester United in terms of.
I think Liverpool will be a bit more patient though, because I feel like it's similar to when Ferguson left. Fans were quite patient with Moyes, and then they just turned on him. I don't think Liverpool are like that. I think there's a lot more chance he'll get time at Liverpool. But I expect Liverpool to still be in a title race next season. If Salah's staying, if Van Dijk's staying, but they're in a similar problem to us. How they paid 100 million euros for Darwin Núñez is mind blowing.
That's it, mate. When you look at all the £100 million players or anyone above £80 million in Premier League transfer history, most of them have flopped. Most of those players, you look at Lukaku, you look at Antony, Ndombele's, the only ones that really stand out as mass. Even Jack Grealish, I wouldn't say has been value for money, but like Declan Rice, obviously, is proven to be value for money.
I'd take him not that many. By the way, Jack Grealish in this system.
Would you?
If you could get him £50 million, like, would you rather? Let me ask you that: if Son was to go, or Richalison goes, and you look at Jack Grealish, who's won trophies at Man City and brings that like winning mentality into the football club, he would win us so many free kicks in and around the box. We don't win penalties for toffee. We've had 2 penalties.
I just don't know whether he's serious enough as a personality. I feel like we've got enough of these sort of Joker type players that are more into their hair and playing FIFA and stuff. I feel like I don't know. Jack Grealish is like a brilliant player, but I can just imagine him for like just having jokes and playing around with Pape Sarr and Sonny or whatever, playing FIFA just before training starts. Like I don't mind it. I mean, he's a good player, but I want someone with a bit more of a kind of appetite for professionalism. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, Shafay Sajad. Sorry if I butchered that name, mate, but I appreciate the super chat. Would you be opposed to seeing Donnelly and Lancashire play before the end of the season? I wouldn't be opposed to seeing any of them, mate, to be entirely honest.
I agree.
Will Lancashire. I don't know if the under 21s. I don't know why we ever got rid of the reserve team football. At least in reserve team football, you had like men. The under 21s. I feel like you get so much space in it. It just doesn't feel like it's a relevant level to judge until you put them in. But I'm happy to see them get some minutes. And in a coma, big up to you, mate. Shout out to you. Thank you very much. Says, I love the show, guys. I got my Melbourne tickets, $450 for 3. Seating level 4 of the G. Wow. So it's 100. Have you seen the MCG, Henry?
No.
It's a cricket ground, right? And it's 110,000 seater stadium. So if you're on level 4, you're up in the gods.
What is that? Where we're playing? Is it?
Yeah, it's a cricket ground and then Aussie rules ground. So basically, it's a cricket site. So if you're on the side of the pitch and you're in level 4, it's going to be a long way back. And so $450, that's like $150, which is, I guess, about £70. I think there's like twice. I think it's like 2 Aussie dollars to the pound, give or take. So £70 a ticket each to sit right at the very top.
Wow, I've just seen it.
Yeah, I wonder how much the sort of level 1 tickets would be. Yeah, Daniel Levy's going to make a fortune out of that for the club. Interesting.
I've got no problem. No problem with us doing that. But when we've got all these extra revenue streams coming in, at the same time, I believe we should be spending a bit more money. Like, the only way we're going to close the gap is to buy better quality, and the only way you're going to buy quality is just a good scouting network. Like, this is a massive summer window for Langer and Mackenzie and all the scouting network. It's massive because we can close the gap.
Last question. Sorry, Henry, finish your point, mate. Sorry.
I was going to say, if we don't close the gap, you're not going to get another season where Man United and Chelsea are this bad. They are eventually going to bounce back. Like, if Chelsea can somehow finish 6th, a Europa League position after the season they've had of being 10th, 12th, 14th, and they've made a cup final and a semi-final, if they can somehow finish 6th, they're not a million miles behind us, are they?
No. Well, on last night's performance, they're miles above us it's only because of our brilliant start. Would you acknowledge, though, right? I don't think there's enough people that sort of speak about injuries this season. I know people talk about like losing Van De Ven and Maddison and Romero for that period of time, and that kind of screwed everything up. But I would argue that losing Perisic and Solomon were more impactful than we give credit for. Because we don't really have that many options. That's why we brought in Timo Werner. But Perisic was an output merchant, right? He knew how to put the ball into tight spaces. He's a professional as well, worked really hard. And I think he started the season very well as a left wing forward. And I'd also say that Solomon, if you look at his stats in the games that he played, I know it was a small sample size, but if you were to annualize that little performance in terms of XG and XA and shot conversions and all that stuff, if you were to annualize that out across the season, he would have been a big player for Tottenham. But the guy's always injured. And so I don't know what you do with him in the summer, because this guy over the entirety of his career has been injured more than he's not. So I just don't know if you can rely on him. Do you keep Solomon in the summer?
If we sell it, it's a free transfer, so it's pretty much guaranteed profit, isn't it? Like, yeah. I'd sell personally. Like, I'd sell him, Brian Hill, on that left-hand side. I'd probably keep both of them on the right-hand side. I think we need to go out there in the summer and just get 2 wingers. Like, everyone turned their nose about Rafinha. He's not good enough. Look at his home and away performances in the Champions League. Look at
take Rafinha, would you?
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat, yeah. He's got pace. Yeah, he can just run at players. Other than a 2 or 3 players in this entire squad. No one likes running. We get to the byline and we just pass it back to someone who's on the edge of the box, and then they pass it across, and then we go over to the other sideline. Like, when Perisic gets the ball, he's going to put the ball in a dangerous area.
Yeah, too much horseshoe football, mate. Too much horseshoe football. Brian Hill definitely needs to go, Surfos, 100%. Ed saying doesn't think Rafinha would join us. I like Rafinha. He's not my top.
I don't think he's going to join us now that Xavi's staying for another year. But if Xavi would have gone, I think he would have left.
Plenty of time between now and the summer to figure out where we're going to do clickbait content, mate. Every day another transfer story. Doesn't matter how spurious the links. Doesn't matter if it came from BugsyMalone.co.uk.
Yeah, someone's basement in Lithuania. But there'll be, as you say, there'll be more news, views, and clues. So make sure you subscribe to the channels.
Yeah, guys, listen, what's coming up, Henry, on Henry Wright TV or Henry Talks Football? Anything coming up for the next couple of days?
Yeah, I'm actually going to do a stream probably in the next, 10, 15 minutes or so, just talking about this just on my channel. And then probably reactions on the second channel. Title race is basically all I'm speaking about on the second channel. Like, I actually just want the title race to be over. Like, it going on the next week, it's like, oh, here we go. Another week. But shamelessly, I just hope we lose to City now that we're out of the top 4 race. If they win it, it's going to be unbearable.
Yeah, yesterday I was saying I'd like Arsenal, I'd like Tottenham to actually beat Man City if we can get top 4, but now we can't. Then exactly as the thing says, screw Arsenal. See you later. See you, put you down to another season without a trophy. Oh, look, another one from Shafay, just in the nick of time before we finish. Appreciate you, mate. It's very nice of you. I think one game a week has been a blessing and a curse for us. More time on the training ground, but no opportunity to build on momentum and tempo. Start season. That's what Ange's been saying a lot of, isn't it? No ability to really kind of gauge where we're at because of injuries and just the infrequency of football. I do agree. I think that it's not been a kind of consistent system, consistent season. But at the same time, if we were to have played twice a week this whole season with the injuries we've had and with the volatility in form, I think we'd also be a lot further down the league. So appreciate that, mate. Appreciate you, Shafay. Henry, I'll send everybody over. Have you got your link set up or?
Oh, you don't have to. That'd be kind. I'll send it to you now. Someone's just sent me this on Twitter. I want to quickly, very, very quickly, share it on the screen if you can. Someone's commented on this. These are the managers we've had since 2001. Just look at the average tenure.
What have you sent me?
Just share the screen at the bottom. Look at the average tenure of all of our managers.
Yeah, but they're including all the 1 day David Pleat. 3 days David Pleat. Come on now. This must be a Levy out person. 23.
You know what? That's like that.
Oh, is that months? Is it months? Is it months or is it what is it? In months. I think it's months. David Pleat was 1 month. Glenn Hodder was 1 month. Pleat was 3 months.
No, that's like 2001. Those are the managers we had. Then we had 2003.
Oh, years is it? Oh, it's years, is it? Okay.
The longest manager we've had is Poch. We had Poch for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we had Jose for 2, and then in the same season we had Mason, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Conte.
And then 2023 we've had 3 managers as well. If you include Stellini and Mason, which you don't, like you knock the team on. So what's that? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 19 names on that list. But if you get rid of Pleat twice, you get rid of Allen and Inglethorpe twice. Get rid of Tim Sherwood. Oh, no, Tim Sherwood was given the full-time gig, wasn't he? Sorry, we'll keep him in.
He was the one who kept Harry Kane.
Yeah, get rid of Mason. Get rid of Stellini and Mason. So you're getting rid of 7 names off there. So really, we're on the 12th manager. Yeah.
Do you not think that's a bit concerning, though?
Mate, the average tenure of all managers in the Premier League is about a year at the moment.
We got to stick with Ange. We can't.
Got to let him have a crack. Got to let him have a go. But I feel like he looks like he's stressed out and cracking a little bit under the pressure. I've never seen him never seen anyone go from absolute statuesque behaviour on the sideline to losing your mind.
in the space of a few weeks.
There was no build-up. There was no normal communication. Like, come on, Romero, move that way. Come on, Bissouma, pay attention. Do this. He's just gone from nothing to, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All the ITKs are starting to lose faith, like Spurs Express, Daily Hotspur. They're all starting to
these guys just follow the momentum of the energy, mate. So if everything was good again, if we beat Liverpool, they'd be back on Ange Postecoglou, what a hero, As soon as it's just momentum, people just go whichever way the wind is blowing, and right now the wind is blowing, towards Ange out. So, did you send me your Did you send me your link to your
in the private chat? Romero retweeted Tottenham's tweet saying you have to go through tough times when you're building something. It's the necessary part of the process. So Romero's clearly back in Ange.
Yeah, of course he is. Love that. Romero's fully coys. I haven't always thought that.
Just give him the armband. Like I'd give him the armband.
Yeah. Speaking of armbands, mate, I'm going to hand over the armband to you. So everybody, stay where you are. We're going to send you over towards Henry, who starts his show very soon. Henry, I can't join you, mate, unfortunately. I've got a lunch date that I need to get to. But thank you for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, right,
appreciate everyone who's been with us this afternoon. Really appreciate the super chats. You've all been super generous. Love you all. See you on the next one. Like, subscribe, and comment to everything. And Henry's name is in the title as well if you haven't seen him. See you on the next one, guys. Come on, you Spurs.